You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ole Miss gets their fourth win in 5 years over Mississippi State. That is something to celebrate, but we do have some nuance to go through in this season and some questions that need to be answered. We are the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, but before we get started, I do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That should help you out quite nicely. All right. So this Ole Miss game, Ole Miss kind of struggle bust beat Mississippi State tonight. They went up against the number 16 defense in the whole SEC. This was not a good defensive unit, period. It wasn't. And Ole Miss struggled offensively all night long. As just the truth and what happened. I don't know why it happened. All I know is Ulysses Bentley busting an 89-yard TD run was the most hilarious thing that could have happened this week, and also absolutely needed for Ole Miss just to win this game. It took a great catch from Caden Prieskorn and that 89-yard touchdown run by Ulysses Bentley to kind of save the Ole Miss Rebels this week. Ole Miss won the game. We're going to talk about playoffs. I mean, it's probably not a way forward if South Carolina wins, which Ole Miss needed South Carolina to do. South Carolina is likely going to jump Ole Miss now. Ole Miss did not play well tonight. Ole Miss won the game. They won the Egg Bowl for the fourth time in 5 years. They finished off a 9-win season this year, but when the expectation was playoffs or bust, this season's going to go down as one of the most disappointing seasons in history of Ole Miss. Tom Vanderford on Twitter posted is like, hey, this is the worst I've felt about a 9-win season and an Egg Bowl win ever. And that's absolutely the case. It's not a situation to where you should be down on one to where the program is, but this season absolutely did not go as expected. It absolutely did not. And whenever you look at the stats from this game, we'll just bring those up real quick. The stats from this game, Michael Van Buren, the quarterback from Mississippi State, had 17 completions and 32 attempts, 280 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. The touchdown was on a fourth down. Man coverage, it was a mess concept. They ended up scoring a touchdown. Mississippi State did not run the ball well, total of about 39 yards tonight. The defensive line and Pete Golding and the Ole Miss defense played really well tonight. They did. They played really well tonight, and they deserve all the credit in the world. Receiving-wise, it was Kevin Coleman and a bunch of dudes for Mississippi State. Kevin Coleman had 6 catches, 118 yards, 44 yards. 44 is the long, and a 1 touchdown today as well. Ole Miss was susceptible to the deep ball, more so than they normally have been recently. And that was interesting. And Mississippi State was able to exploit that. Tonight, Jackson Dart was 14 of 24, only 143 yards. He did have a touchdown. It was a great catch by Caden Prieskorn. He kind of tipped it to himself. He had 2 sacks as well. Ulysses Bentley had 20 carries for 136 yards. That's a 6.8 yards per carry. He had a long of 89 and a touchdown that kind of saved Ole Miss tonight. Jackson Dart was second with 13 carries for 77 yards, had a long of 20. Dominique Thomas had 7 carries for 22 yards, a long of 10. Micah Davis, for some reason, started this game yet again. 8 carries, 18 yards. J.J. Pegues had a touchdown early in the game. The leading receiver was Caden Prieskorn, who had 4 for 53. Jordan Watkins was next with 5 for 39. Caden Lee was 3 for 27. Daquan Wright was 1 for 17. Ulysses Bentley was 1 for 7. It was also a game that Juice Wells did not have the best day in the world for Ole Miss, and we did not see Aiden Williams, even though we thought we would. Ole Miss did have 21 first downs to Mississippi State 16. Ole Miss threw the ball 9 times first down, ran the ball 11 times first down. There were 8 for 18 on third down. There were 2 for 2 on fourth down, had 397 yards overall, had 75 total plays. They ran the ball for 250 yards in the game. They had 51 rushes on the day, averaging 5 yards per rush. That was pretty awesome. Net passing yards, Ole Miss had 143. Their completion was 14 of 24, 6 yards per pass. They were sacked twice. They lost 12 yards on those sacks. Ole Miss punted the ball 6 times, and they did not turn the ball over, which was beneficial. That was one way that they did not help Mississippi State in this game. It's absolutely nuts the way it at what was going on in this game. It was a situation where Ole Miss basically had a false start that saved themselves from going for 2 unnecessarily early in the game. They actually did try to go for 2 late in the game and did not get it, through an interception in that one that was returned out, but not for a touchdown. They were going to go for it a couple of times. It didn't work. That for some reason they had to call a timeout. So a couple of times Ole Miss got saved from themselves in this game, because it was just a situation to where everything just wasn't quite going right for the Ole Miss Rebels in this game. But Ole Miss was going to force it over and over and over again. They were going to force the running game. The passing game was all outside the numbers, all go routes. It was almost a redo of the Kentucky game. If you can remember what the Kentucky game looked like, that is what Ole Miss did in this game. And Ole Miss did enough to win this game. Okay? Ole Miss won this game 26-14, 4th Egg Bowl in 5 years at Ole Miss. So don't hear me complain about that. But Ole Miss did not play particularly well in a game to where Ole Miss absolutely had to blow out Mississippi State to have a conversation in the playoffs. That's the disappointing part. This felt like the end. Ole Miss won the Egg Bowl, and it felt like the end of the playoff that they were talking about. So we'll see exactly how it works. It was not a good situation for Ole Miss's playoff hopes tonight. Ole Miss is down by a point, by the way, against Purdue. For those that are watching this show, Ole Miss is down by a point with about a minute left to go in the game. So we'll see exactly how it goes. They just called a goaltend that was probably not a goaltend. We're going to talk about YouTube comments in just a second into the chat. We're going to go in there a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about Ulysses Bentley and what I think went on. So stick around for that. You know, Game Time was the place to get your last-minute tickets this year. They have views from the seats, the lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. You know, Ole Miss just finished up a great regular season at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, and people that used Game Time had the ability to see exactly the view from their seat even before you checked it out. They had the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. They do take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history that I'm sure a lot of people want to forget at the moment, I might be able to help you out with tickets for the Pavilion and this Ole Miss basketball team as well. They take the guesswork out of buying those Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season, I'm going to be able to help you out in the Pavilion. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, this is what I think is going on and what went on with Ulysses Bentley this year. Everybody has asked me what I think is going on. I think this coaching staff is so analytically driven that analytics dominate most every decision of what they do. Everybody knows how I feel about analytics. Everybody knows exactly how I think that this is going to go out for Ole Miss in the future using analytics, but they use it nonetheless. You have to count on it. This is a big part of what they do. And if you look at Ulysses Bentley, the yards per carry argument came out. Other than the big runs, his yard per carry has not been good. Even tonight, his yards per carry outside of the 89 yard run was not good. But the 89-yard run is a big reason of what he does. The fact that he can make a defense hurt from time to time is a big part of his game. Now, is he going to be Quinshon Judkins or something like that and just get yards and chew them up? No, he's never going to be that style of back. But tonight proved what type of back he was. He ended up with over 100 yards rushing on this evening. He had another long touchdown, and he was probably largely responsible for Ole Miss winning the game. So I think this has more to do with analytics than anything else. This is all Lane looking at the stats of what's going on and trying to figure out a way to run the football off of those stats without paying attention to actual real football stuff from time to time. Lane has overthought this offense this year. The offense that happened in the beginning of the season where they threw the ball deep so much and it was able to work because you had Trey Harris and a bunch of athletes, the SEC teams was able to kind of contain that. And then Ole Miss adjusted to a lot of quick game, and they were fantastic. The Arkansas game and against Georgia was amazing. By the way, those were the two games of the season that Jackson Dart didn't wear a visor, by the way. Take that for what you will, but he did not wear a visor in those games. He wore it against Florida and he wore it against Mississippi State. And Ole Miss did get the win against Mississippi State, but Jackson Dart didn't look particularly good in that game. And congrats to Jackson for breaking the all-time passing record at Ole Miss and entering the top 10 in the Southeastern Conference. Congrats on being the winningest quarterback in Ole Miss history. I think 38 wins. Congrats on holding just about every record that you can have on Ole Miss this season. That's legit. Congrats. I genuinely feel good about you. Whenever the post-game interview happened, though, it sounded like Jackson Dart was done after that Egg Bowl. There was an opt-out coming for the bowl game, whether it be Music City Bowl, Gator Bowl, ReliaQuest Bowl, whatever New Year's Day bowl game, maybe the Citrus Bowl, who knows? You have a situation where he's likely going to opt out, which means, like we talked about all week, this is kind of Austin Simmons season starting and getting ready for those Austin Simmons games, starting with the bowl game. The bowl game gets to act like a de facto spring game for the Ole Miss Rebels moving forward. And I get that people are going to be very upset about how it ended in the spring game and the bowl game and the opt-outs and all of that. But I'm expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 to 25 opt-outs for the bowl game. That's just the way this works now. That's just the way things are. So when you see exactly how Ole Miss can get better, it's through the Aiden Williams. It's through the Austin Simmons. It's Logan Diggs playing in this game. And Ole Miss just tied up the game with the Purdue Boilermakers. Sorry, I got distracted. But this bowl game is a big step for the 2025 season. There's a lot of players that are going to be big-time players for the Ole Miss Rebels in 2025 that are on the Ole Miss roster right now. There's also a lot of players that are going to be brought in through the transfer portal, both at running back and wide receiver and offensive line. And there's a lot of players that Ole Miss is going to try to have in this game and in this season. But the bowl game is going to show you what you have. The bowl game is going to serve the purpose of what the spring game used to be. So you can see these players playing in your system. And now you have a chance to be ready to go, know exactly what you have. With the transfer portal opening up about a week from now, with signing day opening up Wednesday, we will see exactly how that goes. With the official visits on campus today, Deuce Knight came to Ole Miss for an official visit today. They are working that as well. There is a lot to be thankful for about this football program. This football program has won like 38 or 39 games over the last 3 or 4 years or something like that. It's 10 wins, it's 8 wins, it's 11 wins, and now it's 9 wins with a chance to win 10 games for the 3rd out of 4 years. 4 wins over Mississippi State. A split with the LSU Tigers, which obviously we will roll our eyes on that. a big win over the Georgia Bulldogs. There is a lot for Ole Miss fans to hang their hats on. I get that you're disappointed, and you should be disappointed about the season. A lot went wrong. Whenever you do a lot of outside the box thinking that Ole Miss does, and Ole Miss does do a lot of outside the box thinking. They have been for the last 4 or 5 years. Sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you get personnel wrong. Sometimes you get the new age stuff wrong. And those things can come back to bite you. And that happened to Ole Miss this year. Ole Miss roster-wise had the best roster in the entire SEC potentially. There's more players on that roster that's going to go to the Senior Bowl and other all-star games and potentially the NFL rosters than anywhere else in the league. It wasn't talent. It was just messed up. They bungled it. It happens. Now, everybody cannot be happy about it, and everybody can be upset about it. And that is perfectly okay. But what you can't do is discount it. You can't put this on the players. The players made plays over the big part of the whole season. The players made plays. And these players making these plays, they got you in a position to be in one-score games when in some cases coaching malpractice was going on. It's just one of those things. Anyway, when we come back, we are going to go to your comments. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Stick around. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Ole Miss was a 26.5-point favorite, and I thought that the Florida game could just mess with what's going on. Ole Miss did not play well tonight, and Ole Miss ended up winning the game 26-14, a 12-point win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you the opportunity. Purdue just hit a buzzer beater. FanDuel gives you the opportunity to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit thefanduel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's look at this going on. Going to the chat. We're going to say the Copeland, Lane Kiffin still only begrudgingly used Ulysses only after he reeled off the monster TV run. What the heck? He did have 20 carries in this game. Now, I think he was doing better in between the tackles, and they tried to get him to run outside, and Mississippi State did a decent job of flowing, but that was going on there. So Bruce Crane says Bentley not playing is why Ole Miss lost at Florida. Pretty much, I think. Bentley would have been a weapon. Doug from Benton, Arkansas, mixed feelings. I have never been this let down after an Egg Bowl win. So much wasted potential. But the basketball team is looking fire, and next football season should be fun. Yeah, I'm excited because Ole Miss is entering the world of Austin Simmons land. Randy Cross says Ole Miss needs 2 or 3 upsets to get back in the playoffs, and I got a good feeling it's going to happen. Yeah, everybody root for them to happen. Don't expect it to happen, if that makes sense. But definitely root for it. They almost did have a 12-point win. They didn't look particularly good. How when we beat South Carolina 27-3 head-to-head has to matter? Yes, that is the case. That is the truth. But Ole Miss has looked bad consistently over the last couple of weeks. And Ole Miss has to deal with that. The basketball game, there's 0.6 seconds left to go, by the way. And Ole Miss is about to just basically heave it. And it is no good. So Ole Miss ended up losing to Purdue 80-78. Good game, though. Shout out to Dalen making his ESPN debut. I did not see that. So we'll have to see what's up there. Ryan Hurley says, agree. The season didn't go as expected, but here we are. So let's get at it. No looking back. Yeah, it's all about winning the bowl game and getting ready for the 2025 season. The program is in a better place than it has been in recent years. You need to win games moving forward. This year was Honestly, it was really similar to the 2022 season, the way it closed out. The difference is Ole Miss beat Georgia and they lost to Alabama. That was the difference between the two games. Against the next opponent, against Arkansas and against Florida, Ole Miss absolutely laid an egg. And in the Egg Bowl, that Mississippi State team with Will Rogers was good enough to make you hurt a little bit under Mike Leach, rest his soul. And this Mississippi State team was not. There's a lot of similarities between this team and the 2022 team, the way it worked out. That's rough. Ray Duncan says, Lee seems to be the only receiver that can and wants to make a tough catch. Yeah, Caden Lee has been very good, and I'm glad that he is coming back. G1GB offensive coaching staff possibly needs to be cleaned out and try again in the offseason. There's a lot of people mad with Charlie Weiss and Kevin Smith at the moment. A lot of people. The Copeland says, why does South Carolina jump us when we beat them at their house? Because Ole Miss has looked bad for a couple of weeks now. And if South Carolina gets a win on the road against number 12 Clemson, recency bias is going to take over, and they're liable to jump Ole Miss. Worst call of the game, late hit on Xavier Harris on the sideline. Yeah, that was weird. That was just a 340-pound man that was trying to brace himself for impact and not take the hit. And they wanted him to jump out of the way of the game. No, you can't be asked to do that. Somebody that big cannot be asked to go diving into a locker. That was a very weird call. Eric Cornegay, how about Dart breaking Eli's record? That's fantastic. It was fantastic. He broke all the records that he broke, the winningest quarterback of all time. It's going to be unfortunate that it's going to be remembered as this season. You needed a win last week to make everything really pop record-wise. Now it's just a record. It's just there. And it's going to be somebody that gets mentioned when the next guy gets close to that number. I mean, that's what it is. It's nothing against the kid. It's just the meaning of it and everything changed whenever Ole Miss dropped that game against the Florida Gators. Daniel Murphy says, do we need Georgia to win or lose? Thoughts? It doesn't. This game does not matter. It absolutely does not matter, because if Georgia loses, they can be a 3-loss team with a chance to go to the SEC title game anyway. So this game doesn't knock them out. So Georgia winning this game doesn't necessarily hurt you because they're already in front of you. Dad said Bentley finally got some carries. In my opinion, Bentley and Dominique tandem wins at least one more game at minimum. Probably. You're probably not wrong there, Dad. Dad also says the bowl games are largely pointless. Yeah, they're basically spring games at this point, and seeing somebody like Austin Simmons using it the same way they used the Citrus Bowl last year at Tennessee for Nico, that can help out Ole Miss, getting him a game. If Juice Wells doesn't opt out, can we please leave him on the bench in favor of Aiden Williams? Aiden Williams has to play. In the bowl game, Aiden Williams has to play. If Aiden Williams does not opt out for the transfer portal, he has to play in that game. He just has to, period. That's just the way this is going to have to work. Him and Austin Simmons, you have to see what you have for 2025 if it's possible to keep him. Dad says, I've been defending Juice Wells, but he is simply not built for the fade route. Yeah, them using him like DK Metcalf this year was weird at the very least. It was very weird. But we'll see exactly how that goes. Does it help her? Rebels probably not going to the playoff. Does anyone know what players might come back next year? Austin Simmons, Logan Diggs, probably. Maybe Aiden Williams. There's probably a couple players in the offensive line. Defensive wise, Suntaran Perkins. I think TJ Daugherty can come back. There's a couple of players in the secondary that are going to come back as well. This roster overall has to happen. There's a lot of players, like 40 to 50 players that Ole Miss has to bring in for the 2025 roster. So it's going to look big. Biggest wish for returners, this is from Pat0311, is Pooh and Daugherty. Yeah, those players were very, very good this season. Jason Humphrey says we are disappointed for two reasons. Field goals not taken and Juice Wells not living up to expectations. That's my take. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If it was a situation the whole year that Lane Kiffin would have just believed in his defense, I think this year would have been a little bit different. Just believing in the defense, the year would have been a little bit different. The commentator said 8-3 is not what they were hoping for. I remember a time Ole Miss fans would have sold their soul to win 8 games. No, we didn't do as well as we wanted, but I still love my Rebels. You can love your Rebels all you want to and be disappointed in them. This year is like your son being 17 years old and getting a DUI. You didn't stop loving him because he got the DUI, but you are very disappointed in the fact that he did. That's what this season is, and that's what fans are going through right now. It's not about loving your Rebels and not loving your Rebels. The zero-sum game that some fans like to play is ridiculous. This is all about Ole Miss being disappointed in the season. We were told the Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, everybody, playoffs or bust. We are in the bust segment. They did win 9 games, and Ole Miss is probably going to go to a Florida Bowl game in this game, and it could be an Austin Simmons Bowl. And I'm very much looking forward to an Austin Simmons Bowl. An Ole Miss team that cannot run is hard to stomach. This is a hard team to watch this year, by the way. Horrible offensive play calling games. This game was the Kentucky game all over again. It was essentially the same game plan of the Kentucky game. The LSU game happened in the Florida game, but Ole Miss ended up losing 3 games. If Mississippi State would have been good, Ole Miss would have lost the game tonight. They did not play well at all. They were lucky that they were playing somebody that was not very good. Dad, even with the upset, unless Auburn wins, there's going to be a logjam in the SEC with 3 lost teams. Hotty Toddy from Pontotoc, Mississippi, an ugly win, but a win is a win. You are absolutely correct there. This is a big win. This is the 4th Egg Bowl win in 5 years. Do not overlook that. The last Ole Miss coach that did that was Billy Brewer. And everybody can respect what Billy Brewer has done in this Egg Bowl rivalry in the past. Lane Kiffin got 4 Egg Bowl wins out of 5 years. Willis says, kind of sucks that there's no downtime for the staff to self-assess. They have to be porting recruiting cycle coming up, then bowl game, and then when you need downtime to figure out what you've learned. They've got so many analysts, Willis, that's not going to be a problem. As far as getting so much information, their biggest problem is getting too much information at this point. They have plenty of time to do whatever they do. And besides, Lane makes $10 million a year. I'm not in the business of feeling sorry for somebody that coaches football for $10 million a year. Dad, I think the running back coach needs to be looked at. This year was problematic. There's really no way around the running back position this year. None. You can't get past it. I mean, it's an anchor that's on Kevin Smith. It's an anchor that's on Charlie Weiss. It's an anchor that's on Lane Kiffin at this point. It's just the truth and what it is. Samuel KD, what bowl game do you think we'll go to if we don't make the playoffs? I've heard Music City Bowl in Nashville. I've heard ReliaQuest Bowl. They're waiting probably to see if South Carolina makes the playoffs to see what goes on. The Citrus Bowl would love South Carolina if the 3 lost SEC teams are those 3 in Alabama. There's a chance Ole Miss ends up in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I mean, 9 wins, but Ole Miss is not a popular bowl team at the moment for what happened this year. Coaching staff did a poor job of getting the full potential out of this team. No question about that, Gordon Smith. G1GB, I do not blame Aiden if he transfers. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It is going to be absolutely interesting to see what happens with Aiden Williams moving forward. Bruce Kane says the offensive game plan was not worth the money. Gameplay was not worth the money. Yeah, I think there were some misevaluations. I think the game plans didn't work out. And I think that there's a little bit of ninth grader playing Madden in this offensive game plan right now. Orbit. Also, Deuce was there. Yes, he was in the building. He's on an official visit this weekend. He's going to be there tomorrow as well. Dad says root for Vandy, Miami, Purdue, South Carolina, Auburn, and pray. Probably should say, Dad, lead with pray. Deuce Knight being there is good for 2 reasons. He was in Oxford. Yes. And Oxford means game on, period. There's no way you can do that. And there's no way an Auburn commit is going to visit Bama tomorrow for the Iron Bowl. Yeah, Deuce should be in Oxford for the Iron Bowl. Michael Sullivan says, Pooh coming back? I do not know. We have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Gary Grizzard says, from Boonville, Mississippi, Hotty Toddy, what is going on with the offensive line? Horrible. It's weird that Ole Miss lost essentially Victor Kern off of last year's offensive line that led the SEC in rushing. And this year, with the same players coming back and transfers that are coming in, they have trouble running the football. That's absolutely weird. And we'll close it out with the one bright spot this year is seeing Pete do absolutely everything to make this defense great. That's from Willis. The MVP of this team is Pete Golding. There is no getting around it. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for a terrific regular season. These instant overreactions, we have had 4 videos over 10,000 views this season, beating the season on those videos. Absolutely fantastic. We are over 13,000 subscribers right now. It's great. And I do want to thank everybody. It's a benefit, and I think everybody sees it. The fact that I am completely unaffiliated and do not have to bow down and cow down to anybody means that I can tell things like it is, whether you like it or not, completely unvarnished truth. And there's going to be some stuff that people do not like that I say. There's going to be some stuff that people like very much, but that doesn't change the fact that I love Ole Miss. I am here to root for Ole Miss, and I am going to protect Ole Miss over anybody that is in any position at Ole Miss. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning in over the course of the season. We'll check out the basketball season. I'll probably do some instant overreaction once SEC play starts. And if my brain tumor appointment next week goes as well as we're hoping it goes. If I'm okay, I'm going to do a lot more as well. So thank you very much. I will see you Sunday night. We're going to try and do an instant overreaction, maybe with Brad Logan or somebody else. And then on Monday, we're going to have Brian Smith to talk recruiting before signing day on Wednesday. So anyway, I hope everybody has a good day. Enjoy the football tomorrow. Ole Miss wins 26-14. Thank you very much. And of course, Hotty Toddy.